Good morning, everybody. Hey, welcome once again to the Real Estate Radio Show podcast. And my name's Larry Shackman. I'm the real estate therapist. So we're in for a little bit of real estate therapy this morning. And just to remind everybody, we are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So if you go to YouTube, all you have to do to see the entire podcast. Right now, you folks watching on TikTok, you're just seeing me. But if you want to see the whole podcast, just go to on YouTube at Larry Shackman. If you want to see the podcast on Facebook, go to at launch my listing. And of course, on LinkedIn, just search my name, Larry Shackman, and this will come up. Just click on that link and you will see us live. So we have a ton to talk about today. So a couple days ago, I was at a listing appointment in Princeton, Illinois, of all places, which is about an hour and a half away, at a 151 acre, let me go live here on Facebook, on TikTok. There we go. All right. Hey, TikTok, what's up? Okay. So I was at this listing appointment at 151 acre Appaloosa horse farm. And all the horses there are for sale. I'm going to show you a really cool video and just a great picture of this little Appaloosa pony that's for sale, by the way, probably for about $8,000 to $10,000, $5,000 to $8,000, somewhere in that range. But we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff today. There's a lot going on in real estate. We're going to be talking about this class action lawsuit again. We're going to talk about rates and where that's all at. We're going to bring Dylan Kramer on. Dylan's going to talk about mortgage demand now and, just what exactly is going on with rates, what we can expect or not expect. Like we always say, if we could predict the future, we'd be a retired bond trader, right? I'm stealing that from Dylan. He'll be on in a minute. We also have an amazing special guest on today, Patrick Loftus. Patrick is a longtime Chicago Metro real estate attorney, and he's going to have a lot of great advice for us. He has a lot of great stories. So we're also going to be talking about, there's a silver tsunami coming. And the silver tsunami, what I mean by that is all the baby boomers in the next 18 to 24 months, we are predicting a tsunami of baby boomers selling their home, paring down their living situation, selling those $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and $6,000 square foot homes because now they're empty nesters and they don't need all that space. These are going to be coming on the market in the next 18 to 24 months. So if you're a real estate agent, that is a great niche to start looking at to really get out there and engage with. So without any further ado, once again, welcome to the Real Estate Radio Show podcast, and welcome to Dylan Kramer.
Larry, what's going on, baby? How are you, man?
Dylan, what's up, man? How are you?
You know what? I'm fantastic today. I got nothing to complain about, although I've been fighting technology just to get logged in here today. So I'm excited. That worked out. Although I always have old man technology issues. This is my curse in life. So it is what it is.
I was just about to send you the link again, but yeah. I'm glad you made it.
Yeah, well, I logged in. I must have used an old link. It took me to a show. It's like this podcast ended 3 days ago. I was like, that's not it. So, yeah. But nonetheless, it's like you. I heard you doing the warm up. I've had an interesting week in real estate, and let me not bury the lead. The thing I think we should put at the front of our conversation, right? Let's put the bottom line up front. Remember over the course of the last, 12, 15, 20 weeks, we've basically said, hey, what do you think is going to happen when rates go down? People are going to start absolutely streaming out of their apartments and rentals and look to start buying places immediately.
Right.
So we've had a nice run of rates from 8 to closer to 7 over the course of the last 10 days or 2 weeks, right?
Where are we at right now?
About 7 and a quarter.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing.
Let's not get too focused on that, because I want to stay focused on, like, that's a nice run, and it's important to acknowledge that rates are lower. The news came out this week that in the last 2 weeks, mortgage applications were up 50%.
Yeah, so I was going to get to that.
Which means people have turned around and streamed into the market.
Yeah.
And we're at 7 and a quarter.
Exactly.
7 and a quarter that 2 months ago was too damn high. Like, we got to sit on the sidelines. We got to wait. And then they went to 8, and they're like, oh, imagine what happens, as we've talked about, when we start to see numbers with 6s or 5s on them, if that's what happens. And we got involved in a competitive bidding situation, 13 offers on a house in November in Chicago, because rates are 7 and a quarter. What do you think happens at 5 3/4?
Oh, forget about it. We're going to go crazy. Hey, before we go any further, I want to bring the one, the only, the man of the hour on. And of course, that would be Patrick Loftus of Loftus Law. Patrick, what's up this morning?
Morning, Patrick. How are you?
Good morning. Yeah, I usually would still be in bed on a Saturday, but Larry invited me.
Hey, for this kind of money, you're going to show up here, right?
When Larry asks, I say yes. So
that's awesome. Patrick is our good friend and an amazing real estate attorney in Chicago Metro. How long have you been doing this, Patrick?
Well, I graduated.
Not this podcast, but you're as an attorney.
Yeah, podcasting is a newer thing. It's going on about 20 years. Actually, I was licensed. I was November of 2003. So.
Yeah, so combined with my experience in real estate and Dylan's experience in the mortgage industry, we have about 650 years of experience that you're looking at here right now, folks. So
you look good. I get started that, Larry.
There you go. So like I was saying earlier, we have a lot to talk about. Dylan was just bringing up how, rates went from a little over 8 to about 7 and a quarter, somewhere around there. And a lot of people are starting to come out of the woodwork. And here's the thing. So we are at our highest mortgage demand in 5 weeks. Am I right, Dylan?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's all as a result of the rates.
Yeah, look, the market moderated. I think that the interesting thing is, and part of this is human nature, right? We've talked about this over the course of the last few months. People now think that we have a deal because we have 7 and a quarter and not 8.
Yeah.
When we had 7 and a quarter and not 6 and a half, everybody was like, oh, I can't buy, I can't get involved. Now the same 7 and a quarter is fantastic. And so at the end of the day, I think the most important thing we've been talking about is, when you're working with professionals, if you understand what your needs are from a real estate standpoint, really need to go against kind of your first instinct and listen to your professionals, because as you've said, you can't renegotiate your price. And if prices start to go up because rates continue to fall from here, I mean, I don't think this little spike in demand is enough to move prices. But like I said, we had a 13 offer situation this week in November.
Yeah, and prices are not going down one way or the other. When rates come down, more buyers flood the market, more listings on the market, maybe, yes, of course. But all that buyer demand, that pent-up buyer demand, is going to drive prices up again. So, would you rather buy a house at 7 and a quarter when you're the only offer on the house and you have a little more negotiating room? Or would you rather buy a house at 6 3/4 with 15 offers on the table, and that price gets driven up, $40,000-$50,000 over list price?
So here's why I want to be buying that house. I want to be buying that house $25K less than top of the market. And I don't want to be as concerned about the rate so much, because Larry, I think what you're referencing is that, okay, we're all sort of conditioned at this point to purchase things, big ticket items, based on what the monthly price is, the monthly price, right? So you
Right.
go, well, I can afford that. Um, but that's all fine and dandy. The monthly price can change. As soon as you refinance, that whole thing is going to change. What's what you can't affect after you plunk down your money is what you're going to walk away with after you sell.
Yeah. Exactly. So I think, all of those are good points and things that buyers need to keep in mind. Hey, I want to remind our TikTok viewers, if you guys want to see this live, where you see, Patrick and his amazing haircut, you see Dylan, I think he has a Cubs hat on or something. And of course, I'm in my pajamas. You go to YouTube at Larry Shackman, go to Facebook at Launch My Listing, or you can go to LinkedIn and just search Larry Shackman, and we'll be on there. You'll see the full breadth of the podcast as well. So, guys, check this out. So 2 days ago, I went on a listing appointment in Princeton, Illinois. Yes, Princeton, Illinois, where that famous college is. No. So the listing appointment was for a 151 acre Appaloosa horse farm. And I mean, it was just an amazing property. Has a fresh spring running through it. You could flood about 6 acres of it and have your own stocked lake on it. But just really an amazing property. So I just want to show you something real quickly because I thought it was interesting. So here is a little video of the horse farm and some of these Appaloosa horses on it. And by the way, all these horses are for sale. Yeah, so check this out. If you want to,
I'm in the market for a horse.
Well, I know Patrick, he just bought this ticket for like $240 to St. Croix. So maybe he could take the Appaloosa with him. We'll get into that in a minute.
I'm gonna park you in my condo spot. I think there's just enough room for a horse.
Yeah, check this out. So hang on a second. So this property is 151 acres, right? That's mom right there, right? And and that's dad. So when you blend those two together, that's what you get, right? You get a bunch of spotted horses, and yeah, I mean, some of these horses go for $10,000, $20,000. Here's a quick image of one of their offspring. And this is just a little,
cute.
yeah, is that unbelievable? Little Appaloosa pony. Now, listen, if anybody out there on TikTok or anywhere else would like to buy this, no matter where you're watching from, you can buy that little Appaloosa pony for probably between $5,000 and $8,000. So what are you waiting for? Who needs a house?
Are you getting a commission on the horses too, buddy?
No, but we're going to talk about it. Actually, I think the owners are going to continue to run this. Horse breeding farm because they still live on part of the property. So the 151 acres isn't the whole property, but it's part of it. But I just thought that would be interesting. That baby Appaloosa, I saw that. I wanted to take it home with me. And of course, like all horse farms, there were 400 cats everywhere you went. There were cats. Oh, right. They were everywhere, man.
Yeah, my family has horses. My stepmom's a real horse person. They live on 37 acres.
Hang on,
in
what's
North
her
Carolina.
number? What's her
Well, it's
number?
in North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
You'll have to get licensed there, but you need all those horses just to keep all the grass mowed. But I remember when they they lived in McHenry, and they had 10 acres of horses on it, and those are interesting pieces of real estate when you talk about transactions, buying and selling. Not necessarily from the legal perspective, but for a regular person, having a pole barn on your land isn't going to necessarily move the needle. But for someone who absolutely loves horses, and when you meet a horse person, you know that they've got that sort of, in them.
Yeah.
That the fact of a pole barn in an arena, that moves the needle for them. So you're talking about a very specific subset of people.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, they get that sort of like glazed over look when they start talking about horses, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna just go over here.
Exactly. They're like car people except horses. Um,
Car people.
Yeah, I mean, these were really amazing animals. They really were, and it was kind of a real cathartic day for me. It was a listing appointment. It's all business and everything, right? But it was really cathartic being out there and just driving around this whole property. It was pretty cool. So, okay, we're done. We're done with the fun stuff. All hell is breaking loose in the real estate business.
Oh, no.
So, first of all, we touched a little bit on, yeah, we're at the highest point of mortgage demand in 5 weeks. Rates are at about 7.25%. People are starting to come out of the woodwork a little bit. Anybody have any comments on that further?
Not really. I gave you my comments on that in the front end. I think that it's highlighting the lesson that we've been talking about is going to be taught to people, which is, if you can get the right price, why fight with a dozen other home buyers? We've been pounding that message, and I don't think enough people are getting it, but that's
they will shortly, right? When they come back in the market,
they're going to get the short side of it is what they're going to get.
I'm starting to look pretty good with that prediction I made for lower rates in the
Take
spring.
it easy, buddy.
All right. I'm just saying,
it's early. Remember, I told you it's like a guy with a yo-yo on an escalator. The yo-yo can go up and down, but the escalator is still moving in the same general direction.
Yeah, I hear you. It's like I said in the beginning of this show, I quoted Dylan, and I said, if we could any of us could predict the future here, like Dylan always says, we'd be retired. We'd be a retired bond tradesman living in St. Croix. And the reason I keep bringing up St. Croix is because Patrick has this website, this YouTube channel. What's it called?
It's a TikTok page.
TikTok. I'm sorry. What's it called?
It's called "Let Me Help You Fly," and I find cheap flights, and I tell
and that's not a analogy or anything for anything. It's just let me help you fly. Literally, he is going to show you the best prices, Dylan. So I'm watching one of his shorts,
right?
And it's about now correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a round trip ticket to St. Croix for $249. Am I right?
Yeah, it was right around there.
That's fantastic.
Exactly.
That's the thing. I think so. Larry, you're going to get me on this, and then we're never going to leave this topic. But
we will. Go ahead.
Yeah, you'll move me along when you're ready. I think that there's just a general misconception out there that plane tickets have to be expensive. And part of it is the fact that most people are searching on websites that advertise. And guess what? If you're searching on a website that advertises, you're paying for their marketing budget in addition to the plane ticket. These online travel agencies got to make their money somehow. I always tell people, search on Google Flights. It's not an online travel agency. It's a search engine. Mm-hmm. And what that does is it number one, the best part about Google Flights is the calendar function, which is you put in your departure, your destination, and then you let the dates alone. And then it shows you on a calendar what day is the cheapest to fly, to leave and come back. Mm-hmm. Mistakes that people make, they're convinced that the only good time to travel is the holidays, spring mm-hmm. break, in the summertime. And mm-hmm. for some people, if you're a student, it's going to be hard to travel in March. Well, in March I'm not talking spring break, February, March, awesome times to try to, especially international flights. You're going to have to bring a coat because you're not going to be sitting on the beach, somewhere, in Barcelona, but you're going to go see all the other stuff, and you're not going to be inundated with tourists. You're going to be able to go to Rome and not get trampled by just, all of the tourists there in July.
Yeah.
You know, don't try to cheat. If people go, oh, can you help me find a cheap flight to, visit my family in Florida over Christmas? I cannot. Those don't
Yeah.
exist.
Yeah.
If you want a cheap flight, you know, uh,
Off
buy a
times, right?
plane. Yeah, it's let me see if I can bring this back to mortgage rates. All right, so there's really, I'm not going to quote Warren Buffett, but if everyone else is zigging, you want to be zagging. Okay,
Yeah. Yep.
so as humans, we are conditioned to follow the crowd because usually where the crowd's going is someplace safe.
Yeah.
But that instinct leads us to bad outcomes in a lot of cases because if humans are going someplace, it creates demand, and if there's not supply to meet that demand, what's going to happen? The price of that thing is going to go up.
Yep.
So when why is it that cash buyers and investors are out there are out there going under contract on properties when interest rates are up? They're not interest rate sensitive. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
they don't, they're not sitting there reading all of the horrible things on the news going, oh my God, interest rates are so high. Dylan, you talked about, on the way up, 7.25 was like, oh my God, we just cracked 7.
Exactly.
Oh no. Oh
Right.
no. And then, we touch 8 and then we're back to 7.25. People are like, well, I better get this 7.25 now because, oh my gosh, what happens if it goes back up?
Well, not only that, but the mindset that now the getting is good. It's the same, to your point from earlier, it's the same monthly cost at 7.25, whether it was 6.75 last week or 8 last week. 7.25 is the same.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can make it work at 7.25, you lock in at 7.25. It's the worst it's ever going to get, right?
Yeah,
for the next 30 years. And after 30 years, you don't have any payment, assuming certain things. So, for plane tickets, if whatever the low season is, so to speak, that's when you're going to usually get the best deals.
Right.
And there's exceptions to that, and you get a mistake fair. Yesterday, if you were quick and you logged in at the right time, you could have got a plane ticket from Chicago to Warsaw for $199. Now that was a mistake fair. It didn't last long, but these kinds of things
Is that round trip?
exist. Yeah,
That is crazy.
I never quote one-way prices because that would be a bamboozle.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to BS people. That's being a person. When you BS people, you get found out, and then you got to find new people to BS. I don't know that many people, so
All
I
right,
got to be straight with them.
So listen, I don't want to stay too long on this, but I find that all to be absolutely fascinating. The next time I go anywhere, you're the first person I'm calling because I'm not kidding either, because some of these prices you come up with are amazing. I mean, you guys what's the name of that TikTok channel again?
Let Me Help You Fly.
Yeah, Let Me Help You Fly. If you guys are thinking about going somewhere for a week, 2 weeks, a month, 4 years, get on Let Me Help You Fly on TikTok.
Or a weekend. And if you want to see me wearing these, I do have some sponsored content coming up.
Nice. Like it. So I want to talk a little bit about this thing I've been reading about in terms of this tsunami wave coming on the market, right? And what I mean by this silver tsunami wave coming on the market, much like my hair and Patrick's hair. I have an excuse. I'm 65. I don't know what his problem is. It's probably stress.
It's the Irish heritage, man. I started going gray when I was 17. What can I say?
That's okay. It looks great, man. So this silver tsunami of houses coming on the market over the next 2 years. So baby boomers right now are sitting in the catbird seat. And that is because they have about $18 trillion in equity built up in their homes, and they are going to be kind of paring down their living situation. So they're going to be selling these 3, 4, 5, and 6,000 square feet homes in order to get into like a 151 acre horse farm in Princeton. They're going to do things like that. But in all seriousness, they are going to be selling their larger homes to get into these smaller homes. So like I was saying earlier, if you're a real estate agent, this would be a great niche to start really looking seriously at, because a lot of these homes are going to be coming on the market. I can tell you that as soon as my daughter moves out, this house will be one of them. Because, I don't need all the space. So,
I read that. I feel like, Larry, that article comes up every couple of years. Like, hey, people are turning 65 and downsizing. By the way, I love how you say they.
Oh, Dylan,
It's
you
nice.
are
Thanks a lot. Thanks for
dirty
joining
dog.
us, everybody.
So, but regardless, I think that there's a real question in this kind of wave over the next few years, that, and it's tied back to our current mortgage situation in the general market, to this subset. And the question is, what if, to downsize, right, you're going to take your $2,000 a month payment and you're going to sell your house, and then you have to buy for $200,000 cheaper and get less space, and your mortgage payment's only $100 less. Are you going to move?
Right.
Because you're going to borrow this much, you're going to borrow, now you have this much money at 2.5%, and you have this much money at 7%, and it's about the same. That's the question I think is going to be interesting as that cycle plays out. Have you seen anything that's addressing that kind of math? Because I think part of it is, I'd be concerned about where the math is going to be for folks when they go to make that decision.
Well, I'm putting a house on the market in Buffalo Grove in Adley East Stevenson district, which is a very sought after area. I think Adley East Stevenson is like the number 5 high school in the entire country. So people flock to that area. And this is a couple that is, selling their big 4,500 square foot home with the pool in the backyard. They raised 3 or 4 kids there, and they're moving to, a smaller, more manageable place, and they have full equity in their home. So, there's no mortgage on it. So I think that's what we're talking about more than anything, is these,
Yeah, Larry, I think there's a couple moving parts here, and Dylan, what you said is I think going to be a friction point for people that can't take the equity in that home that they have and turn it around and buy cash, for example.
Right.
If you can do that, if you are selling your larger home to move to a lower cost of living part of the country, I think then it'll make more sense. If you're downsizing to a place that has much lower property taxes, I think that can move the needle as far as what your PITI is going to be, not just your PNI. Some people are going to age out of being able to take care of a 4,500 square foot home. I mean, let's face it, I struggle to take care of an 1,100 square foot home. I don't know what I would do if, like, those rooms you don't go in, that you never think about, you still have to clean those rooms, and maybe if you can afford a house like that, you can afford a person to come clean that place. But also as you're getting older, your income is going to become more in a fixed position, so you're going to have to really take close consideration of what you're spending your money on. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts here.
Yeah, I think I think my partner Michael Afito always likes to say, life drives real estate, right? I mean, it's not interest rates, it's not the price of the home. Life drives real estate. When you get to a point where you don't need that 6,000 square foot home anymore, that's part of that whole thing. Life drives real estate. When you get to a point where, like, where I really don't want a large house. I mean, mine isn't a large house, but it's large enough where I don't need all this space. I spend most of my time either in my office, in the kitchen, or sleeping. It's like,
totally get it. Hey, it's interesting. One of the things that we've got in the industry trades and the mortgage business is there's a lot of conversation around these folks, and the idea that the gap in that financing element of it, right? Because you're right, life drives real estate. So if you want to make that move and you're $50,000 or $100,000 short, and you're swapping a $600,000 house for a $300,000 condo or whatever it is, that's going to be a place where we see a lot of increased demand over the next 10 years for the reverse mortgage product.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily want to drill down on it at this point in time, but I think that that's going to be a piece of filling the gap for that wave of buyers, at least some of them.
I think that's a really good point. You know, here's what is incumbent upon the three of us and people like us is to let people know that they have options. You know, I'm constantly reminded about the fact that, you know, what knowledge that I take for granted about mortgage loans, about, you know, real estate law, real estate in general. You know, Dylan, you're probably, you know, aware of this, and I'm just coming around to the idea that the prevailing idea, the conventional wisdom out there is that you need 20% down payment to buy a home. You know, end of story. And most of my clients are not borrowing 20, or pardon me, are not bringing in 20%. They're bringing in 3.5, 5, 10 maybe. But you know, something, you know, that to me, you know, shoot, it's been obvious for a very long time, and you know,
Forever.
it's not obvious to most people, you know, to even just to get out there and, you know, what is a reverse mortgage? I'd venture to say if you went out in front of Jimmy Kimmel's studio with Guillermo and were, you know, interviewing people about what do you think a reverse mortgage is, they'd probably think it was something you do on a diving board.
Yeah. Well, there's that. And if you, and you know, the funny thing is we talk a little bit about the reverse mortgage, and like I said, I don't want to get too far down it. But even, you know, again, for people who are in the space, they're looking at their solution issues. You know, we run into people that are our age that have senior parents, right? Or Larry at 65.
Dylan, it was nice having you today.
Right.
But one more reference like that, and you're not far from me. You know that, right?
So you're 60. You know, you got to be 62 to qualify. But you know, the misunderstandings that folks have that, like, hey, the government owns your house, or the bank owns your house, or you know, that your estate is going to be on the hook for all this money, or you know, they're going to kick you out of your house. There's all sorts of misunderstandings about the product, even for people who are reasonably considered to be targets to deploy the product effectively. So you're 100% right, and it's just a question of, back to your original point of, look, the day-to-day details that we're aware of that can help people. They need to know what they don't know, and sometimes that's really the problem at hand.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I'm not, you know, I'm not trying to throw us under the bus or really anyone else. I mean, this is a problem for anyone that becomes expert level really at any topic, is that there's a certain amount that you take for granted that people, you know, they must know this. These are basics. And you know what else you can do with a reverse mortgage is you can make it look like you have less assets than you actually do. Just saying.
Yep.
Just saying.
Hey, so kind of segueing from that, it's November 18th. Am I correct?
Yes.
I believe so.
So November, as of today, Fannie Mae, and Dylan, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you could now buy, is it a multi-family with 5% down, or what?
2 to 4 units.
Explain that.
So conventional loans today, as of today, they're going to, and I don't know if they've run it yet, only because I haven't sent my email, but they were running. So it's either overnight tonight or it's already available. But it's here basically in effect. They've changed the guidelines. It used to be that on a conventional loan, you had to put 15% down on a 2-unit, and you have to put 25% down on a 3 or 4 unit building, even as an owner occupant. And that is now changed to 5%. So the interesting thing that we're going to see now are and you've heard me use this term before, the overlays, or what's the devil in the details, right? So they haven't really released the guidelines. It's been the oddest product release by Fannie Mae in a long time, in terms of how much cash do you have to have in reserve after closing? What sort of landlord experience, if any, do you need? Will you have to take a homeowner first-time landlord certification course? FHA has on 3 and 4 units a rule that I wouldn't be surprised got rolled into these rules, where you have to double approve the loan. And what I mean by that is you have to both qualify for the PITI payment and the property after appraisal has to turn around and be what's called self-sufficient. So if your payment's $3,000 a month and a 3-unit building, you better have 3 market level rents, even if you're going to live in one, of $1,000 a month. Because if the rents are $2,800 and your payment's $3,000, that's a hard stop on that approval. And we came into a loan in a save situation for another homeowner. On exactly that point, they were trying to get shoved into an FHA loan and didn't meet the self-sufficiency test, and it's just a hard stop. So the question will be, is there a self-sufficiency test as well? So more details to follow as we get the product rollout. But yeah, availability is at hand.
Yeah, I was like the largest, or not physically, but the largest or one of the largest REO brokers in Illinois from about 2009 to 2017. And I can tell you that Fannie Mae is never confusing to work with. They're always, they're always so focused, and they're always, I always understood exactly why they overpriced homes by $80,000 rather than just
Great.
I can go into a lot of this, but yeah, I think, like you said, the devil's in the details. And if it works out where this is actually, something that is a good thing, you're going to see a lot of investors and a lot of homeowners, home buyers, house hacking.
I think it's going to open. Look, one of the things I think you're right. It's going to open this to a lot more candidate buyers. And I think that the good news for folks, and we've kind of been talking about, is, look, that's going to make it's hard to save 25% of a 4-unit building in Chicago, right? Like every 4 flat in the city in anywhere, let's say east of, Kedzie is a $1 million property, right? No matter where you are in the city, north to south. And so to turn around and save 25% of $1 million to go buy a 4-unit, that's a tall order to be able to do that at a lower down payment. And look, it might not be 5% for some people. It might be 10% because it might have self-sufficiency or anything else. It's going to open a lot, no pun intended. It's going to open a lot of doors, like 4 of them at one time.
Yeah. Yeah. And, investors are starving for more doors in their inventory. They really are, because there's not a lot out there right now. And what is out there, it's so competitive that there's not a lot of meat on the bone. So whether you're flipping or whether you're buying to hold it and rent, they're looking for these properties. So you never know.
And with investors, when it gets to me, it's rarely like one of these clean properties where it's like, okay, cool, we're gonna do an inspection. There's a couple of things here and there. No, when I see these inspection reports on a lot of these multifamily, especially at the lower price points.
Oh yeah.
Whoa, boy. And then I go and look on the building department website, and I find out, there's
been there, done that.
Yeah, building court injunction. You name it. It's just
It can all be worked out, folks. Don't worry about it. It can all be worked out, no matter what. And you know what? It's funny, but it's really the truth. And you know this, Patrick. It really can be worked out, but you gotta just be working with the right team and the right group of people, like us, for instance, that can help you kind of maneuver through the minutia of a real estate transaction, which, hey, so I want to segue, and Dylan's going to love this. I want to segue into this class action lawsuit for this one reason, because I've really been thinking, Dylan, I know you're bored talking about this.
Larry, my position on it is, we've talked about it a little bit. I know it's got relevance in the market, so I want to spend some time on it. But I feel like when I talk to consumers about it, their eyes glaze over, and they're
concerned. So here, I think that's a good point. I really
maybe
do.
Some.
Here's the thing though. So I was thinking about this, and really it is such an ill-conceived class action lawsuit because the only person, the only entity, if you will, that it's going to help are the plaintiff's class action attorneys. Now, I'm not saying this against attorneys. I love attorneys. I couldn't do what I do without attorneys. I
Yeah,
need
yeah.
someone to blame
Disclaimer,
if something goes
disclaimer,
wrong.
disclaimer.
Uh, right. No, I'm serious. So it takes a village to do a real estate transaction. You need a great attorney, you need a great agent, you need a great mortgage broker, home inspector. So it takes a lot of people to get over the finish line. But really, who is this going to hurt the most? And who it's going to hurt the most, in my estimation, is first-time home buyers, FHA buyers, VA buyers, and people that are scrounging together. Like Patrick said, most of his clients come in at 3.5, 5, maybe 10%, but many come in at 3.5 or 5% down. Well, now they're going to have to scrape together that 3.5, 5% down, but they're also going to have to pay their buyer's agent if they choose to be represented. And if they don't choose to be represented, then you're going directly to the listing agent who is not representing you. It's not, they're representing the seller.
You're going to get taken advantage of.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
just no two ways about it.
Yeah.
I completely agree. Although I think that there's an element of this on the cash end, and Larry, you heard me say this before, so I'll be brief about it. I think eventually, there's going to be a gap where this is a problem, and right now we've got this situation as it is now. We're going to change the paperwork, and it might take a year or 2 or 5 of really a disconnected market, which is, I really think, what we're speaking to, right? Is this disconnected situation where it's not going to affect, and then we'll have the reality of whatever the new market is, and we're going to effectively just change the way the paperwork reads and carry on as we do now.
Yeah.
Well,
I think you're right.
I have a lot of opinions on this, as you might imagine. I've done, gosh, I don't know, 30 TikToks on this particular topic on my Loftus Law TikTok, and I've never had such an active comment section on any of my TikToks because, by and large, nobody cares what a real estate lawyer has to say on TikTok until I start talking about real estate brokers. And I think most consumers, when they get into a position where they want to buy a house and sell a house, I'm going to treat both of those equally. I think that ultimately they appreciate the value that their real estate broker brings to the table. Most people. And then you've got certain people, and either they got taken advantage of at some point, or they just have some sort of preconceived notion about whatever it is, but they just absolutely despise real estate brokers and everything they're about. And those people are ill informed, in my opinion. Or they have something to sell you, like a FISBO seminar or something like that.
Exactly. Or they're a wholesaler.
Well, sure. So there are people that have a vested interest in real estate brokers having a poor reputation. And by the way, NAR has absolutely failed all of you in terms of letting this sort of this perceived this perception of realtors out there. They're so damn focused. I think I can say that on maintaining the integrity of the 6% commission and lobbying Congress and all that. They don't, there's no thought of any effective PR campaign to say, hey, this is legitimately the value that the people in our industry bring to real estate transactions. This is why you need us.
Yeah.
There's nothing out there like that. So everyone's just left to form their own opinion. And people who have, in many respects, a vested interest in trashing that reputation, they have no problem getting out there and, spewing all of the, I'm not going to call them lies because these people legitimately believe this stuff, but, these half truths, these, just this garbage that they're spewing.
Patrick, you're an attorney, so just because somebody legitimately believes something doesn't necessarily mean it's going to hold up in a court of law. So
Well,
I mean,
that's true.
I'm joking around, but the reality of it is there's a lot of people out there that legitimately believe a lot of things that just flat out are not true, right?
That's true. You just
So
can't
I
call
mean,
them liars. That's,
yeah, go
you
ahead.
know, that, that's
Um, I
that's
don't
the
think it's gonna
distinction.
change. I don't think this is gonna change, much at all, and I'll tell you why, because I think the only way something like this changes is organically, is if people stop using real estate agents because they can just do it on their own, whether it's selling or buying, and for decades and decades, people have chosen to use real estate brokers to buy and sell homes. Now, why is that? Because there's a lot involved in buying or selling a home. And there's something to say about shifting accountability to a professional, just like I do when I sell a home, one of my homes, or buy a house or anything else. I'll call Patrick and I'll let him handle the legal stuff because I don't want to be on the hook for that. And I know a lot about real estate. I've been doing this 23 years, but I'm still going to have a real estate attorney help me with that purchase. So I don't think you can change something like this, even though the jury, they made a pretty quick decision in like two and a
They
half
did.
hours. I don't
Not a
think you can change anything like this unless it happens organically and people just decide we're going to stop using real estate agents.
Well, and it's
yeah.
not for a lack of trying, right? I mean, Zillow's been trying for 20 years to figure out how to wedge themselves between real estate brokers and the consumers. And the best they've been able to come up with is that we're going to basically make it a way station on the real estate journey for a client and get a piece of the cut selling those consumers as leads. Like that's
Yeah.
the best they've got. They've
Yeah. Lead
tried,
gen.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. So, I mean, look, if they could turn around and instead of making a couple of $100 in lead gen, could make a few $1,000s in real estate brokerage commissions, they would do that as a business model. They can't.
Yeah.
And they have really deep pockets. Like one of the things is we talk about this all the time. It's very cliche to say, hey, follow the money, follow the money. The fact of the matter is they have a pile of money at Zillow and they haven't been able to figure out how to deploy it to disrupt this space.
Well, they
And
lost a pile of money too when they decided to try and flip homes.
but they
They
were trying
lost
to
about $1
disrupt a
billion
different space,
in
right?
9
No,
months.
that's different. They were trying to disrupt the flipping space, right? Like that's a little different. But as in this very narrow area, they've targeted this almost from the get-go
Yeah.
and have been unable to figure it
And
out.
here we
And
are.
they're not the only one. Like, look,
Yeah.
whether it's you remember 10 years ago, the list to sell and help you sell, like we'll stick your house in the MLS for $500 and you figure the rest out because you can't figure the rest out. So all these business models that have come in to try to figure out how to get a piece of that pie for themselves can't effectively do it.
The whole thing about this lawsuit that kills me is the whole premise of it is that the NAR and large brokerages and other and real estate agents have conspired to keep real estate commissions artificially high. And I'm trying to figure out where they came up with that because nobody has ever told me what to list a home for. I've never put a gun to any seller's head and said, you've got to list this home for 6%. So who's conspiring to do this, Patrick?
Well, so it's whenever you are trying to convince someone of something, you start at the conclusion and then you build your factual case to reach that conclusion, right? And
Right.
this, when I say it, it sounds gross, but that's the job, and all of us, we do it all the time. So how did they go and build this case? Well, take for example, let's just throw them under the bus. BHHS, their standard listing agreement didn't have a blank space to fill in the percentage of the commission. It was 6% pre-printed. The perception of that, it's not good. Okay, so
I agree.
that's just one piece of the puzzle. Here's another one. Keller Williams. Boy, I'm throwing everyone under the bus. I'm trashing reputation this
Yeah,
morning.
good luck getting
Uh,
another deal. Go ahead.
Well, look, this is all part of
No, absolutely.
the, it's out there in public, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
and yeah, I'm not trying to build anyone's case. This case already been decided.
right.
Keller Williams in their training materials, they'd be like, it's got to be 6%. Don't undervalue yourself. And what I think the intention is to empower real estate brokers not to just go and engage in a race to the bottom. Because if you're out there at listing appointment after listing appointment and you're saying, listen, I charge 6%, and you're just, no one's ever hiring you, I think that, the easiest thing to do would be to say, well, I'll see if I have more success at 5% or 4%, whatever. So these training materials were very adamant that, you really need to be maintaining this high, standard, so to speak. And of course, all real estate brokers by and large are independent contractors, but these kinds of things are influential as far as, you embed that in someone's mind that 6% is my value, you know, no more questions. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
And, they were able to convince a jury using, facts like that and others. And I don't know what kind of like cartoon villain lawyers the NAR lawyers were, but they must have shown up with those like big, like, curly Q mustaches you see in like the old westerns or whatever, the old silent films, and just completely,
Blew it.
alienated this jury. I mean, there's so many
Yeah.
arguments they could have made that I feel like they just,
Oh
you
my
know,
God.
without studying the transcripts, I hesitate to be more critical than I already am. But to me, yeah, Larry, to your point, they came back in 2 hours. This is a far more complicated and complex question.
Exactly.
And if it was answered in 2 hours, someone dropped the ball. And I was
Someone
going to say
messed up. I
something.
agree. I agree.
Um,
They're the NAR attorneys. I'd love to sit down and talk with them and try and figure out what their plan was. Hey, listen, I know
I don't think
Dylan's
they
gonna.
want to. I don't think they want to talk to you, buddy.
they,
Yeah,
they,
trust
they
me.
don't want to talk to anyone about
They
this.
don't want to talk to me.
They
Dylan,
just
I
hope
know
their
you
last
got to
invoice
take
gets
off
paid.
shortly.
Yep.
So let everybody know, how do they get in touch with the mortgage problem solver, the guru of mortgage, of all mortgage? How do they get in touch?
You can reach me by text or phone at 630-708-7088 anytime.
All right. With that, I'm going to let you go. Have an awesome, awesome
You
weekend.
got it. Thanks, guys.
And
Good talking to you, Dylan.
we'll talk
Happy
to you soon.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gobble, gobble.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right, you got it. Thanks, guys.
Okay. So Patrick, yeah, I agree with you on everything you said when it comes to this lawsuit, because the thing that's baffling to me is, how did they come up with this decision in 2 hours? There is so much to talk about here, but 2 hours and they're like, yeah, we want to pay less than 6%. So like you said, the plaintiff's attorney starts at that 6 and 7%, makes their case, and everybody's like, yeah, we agree with you. Hello.
Yeah. The more I kind of study this, and the more discourse I engage in it, and the more I learn about NAR, to me, some real fundamental questions need to be asked and answered about this organization, because number one, as I already talked about, they've been doing y'all wrong for a long time now. There's really, outside of lawyers, I mean, to be honest, real estate brokers, one of the few, as a lawyer, I'm glad, I'm glad I'm not, in the firing line like they are. I mean, lawyers, there's a whole genre of jokes about my profession, and I still feel like, well, they get a lot more hate than we do. I mean, one of the most ironic statements that I've heard people make is that, well, the good news is that we instead of hiring real estate brokers who offer no value whatsoever,
Yeah.
we're going to just hire a real estate lawyer and they'll protect us. And I'm just like, okay, so who's going to go out there and show you these properties? I'm
Right.
not.
Right.
Who's going to go meet the appraiser at the appraisal Nuh-uh.
Who's negotiating the deal? You're not.
Right, right. I mean, I can drop the
You could
contract, but I don't know enough about the market, and I'm not going to educate myself, because if I were to do all the things necessary to do what I think people think that they're going to hire me to do, I'm going to if I'm going to charge them, what the value of my time, it's going to be much more expensive than what y'all are charging them. So it's like we're
absolutely,
not we're
exactly.
not if you're looking at lawyers to be the cheaper alternative, you're looking in the wrong direction. I'm sorry. Nowhere in the history of ever
You're
have lawyers been the cheaper alternative. Okay, it's
yeah.
just not.
No, you're 100% right. And guys, we're going a little bit longer today, but I mean, Patrick makes a great point. Okay, so let's take real estate agents out of the equation. Listen, you're paying somebody to do all this stuff for you. I will guarantee you there's no realtor out there that is a listing agent that's going to represent the buyer for free. They're going to get as much money as they can for the seller. So whether you think they're going to be nice to you and do the best job they can, they're representing the seller. So yeah, I think NAR is nervous right now because people are starting to look at them and go, hey, what are you doing for me besides I'm funding you every year, and how are you protecting me in my profession?
They're
Uh,
not. All they're doing, it seems, is gatekeeping the MLSs, which is not a function that is needed, to be honest.
yeah.
One of the funnier comments I got in my TikTok comment section, someone said something along the lines of, "What, you don't think I can pull comps and competently price out what a home is supposed to be?" And I was like, "Yes, that is what I'm telling you." He's like, "Well, I used to be a realtor, so of course I can do that." I'm like, "I rest my case. I mean, no more questions, Your Honor. Come on,
Yeah,
stop,
exactly. You
stop it,
used to be
stop
a
it."
realtor.
Stop arguing against yourself. Come
Yeah.
on. That's it's these kinds of things though where it's like you've got maybe it's just a very vocal minority, and probably it is, but they're very vocal.
Yeah.
Wow. I've never got so much activity. I got one video with like 15 likes and like 75 comments, which is usually a bad ratio.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, but if NAR's not going to be out there, trying to stick up for realtors, then gosh darn it,
What's their
I'm
point?
gonna I'm gonna go jump on the wall and take some shrapnel for y'all, because
Exactly.
I owe a lot to real estate brokers, and we all do. You guys make that market run as smoothly as it does. Without that, I mean, please, think about. Before Dylan jumped off, I was gonna say, what if we said all the same things about mortgage brokers that we say about real estate brokers? I could go on Zillow and I can find, a mortgage rate, and I can submit my documents if there was a form that says submit these documents, and there was automated underwriting and blah blah blah. No one's arguing we should get rid of mortgage brokers and substitute AI or something.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why? Now that Dylan's off, I can say the real reason. The real reason is because lenders are the only profession on the master statement whose compensation is not there. There, I said it.
Yeah. Good point. And I'm not commenting on that one way or the other.
Yeah,
It's
nor
just
should you.
yeah, I
I'm
mean,
not
it's
trying to take any kind of stance
and I
against
know you're not.
mortgage
I know you're
brokers.
not. You're just making a point. And the thing that it just blows my mind that NAR blew this so bad for them to come back in 2 hours with this decision and give it that little thought. I mean, I have to question the NAR attorneys and you know,
the
what
the
was your argument?
organization, the overall organization is rotten. Yeah, you saw the fact that not only did the president step down because of a sexual harassment scandal, the CEO retired early because he's like, well, I just see where this is going. I mean, that's not what he said, but come on, that
Yeah,
it's not a coincidence. And organizations that show rot are rotten from the top. You should look at the
top
Chicago
down.
Bears.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, before we wrap it up, so how do people get in touch with Patrick Loftus? Give us all the details.
Yeah, great question. So if you want to read all of these absolutely scintillating TikTok fights in my comment section. Go find me at Loftus Law. You can see there
Right.
on the screen how to spell Loftus. Not everyone can do it by ear. If you want to see me in a calmer sort of venue, go find me on Instagram
Yeah.
at Loftus_law.
Yeah. And don't forget, not only is Patrick a real estate attorney, but he will save you thousands of dollars on your next flight to some paradise that we all wish we were in right now. Although it's a beautiful fall day, we have to admit that here in Chicago.
That's true.
But yeah, so one more time on that TikTok travel site. What was that?
Oh, at Let Me Help You Fly. And Larry, let me just see if I can make an analogy. All right. So we don't really have travel agents anymore, right? Used to be,
Yeah.
you want to go on vacation, you call a travel agent, they sort it all out. And they've got the connections. They find you the best place with the within your budget, blah blah blah. Boy, that
Mhm.
sounds familiar. Now that we don't really have travel agents, man, do people feel like they are just never able to get a good deal on travel?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well,
What does
there you
that sound
go.
like?
There you go. And that's gonna happen in the well, I honestly don't think anything's gonna happen here. First of all, we're gonna go through 2 years of appeals before anything happens, I think. Um,
Possibly.
possibly, and,
I
we're
got
gonna
some.
go through. Go ahead.
I have some thoughts on that, but I don't think we have enough time. But I'm sure there'll be another opportunity for us to
Yeah,
chew this one up. 'Cause it's not a short conversation.
yeah. So, at some I mean, we'll have some appeal period, whatever that'll be. They're going to appeal it. I don't know, they did so horrible the first time around. I'm not sure what the appeal's gonna hold, but who knows?
Yeah, I wouldn't be optimistic. I'd be making plans for how to navigate the next couple of years as things shake out. I think you're gonna have some people who think they're disruptors. I think you're going to have some people who, once they see what it's like with, going it alone without a real estate broker, they're going to come around a little bit, whether they like it or not. I think overall, long term, commissions are probably going to get squeezed, and you're going to see
That's been going on for
more.
years.
Yeah, that's true, but I think there's going to be a more, I think it's going to come down overall. You're not going to see 5.5%, 5, 10 years down the line. That's not going to be the average. It's going to be something less. But along with that, you're going to get automation of tasks that realtors are handling themselves. So you're going to get a not a worse product, and you're
Mhm.
also going to get certain tasks that realtors handle themselves. It's going to be put onto assistants and non-licensed employees. Again, it's going to lead to a worse product
A
because
degradation of service, if you
yeah,
will. Yeah, yeah.
I think that those two things are going to be coupled together, and we'll see what else. I don't know.
I personally do not think people are gonna stop using real estate agents. If they were, they would have done it a long time ago, and I don't think a plaintiff's class action lawsuit is going to completely change the industry. Having said that,
Agree.
like you said, there's like a zillion. We could spend 4 hours on this subject, and we'll spend more time on it in the future. One other quick thing I wanna mention, on Patrick's behalf is Patrick hosts a podcast and radio show called The Homebuyers Hour with Charlie Belafontaine. He sounds like a jazz percussionist or something. Charlie is a home
Home inspector.
inspector. And so check them out on Wednesday, 6 o'clock in the
And
morning. Get up.
lest we forget, Joey Matthews, the VA loan nerd. Find us
Yes.
at thehomebuyer'shour.com. We live stream Wednesday at about 10:15 every week. So if you
Yeah.
want more talk just like this, but without the spice and flavor that Larry brings to the mix, come check us out then.
Well, I start drinking at about 8:30 on Saturday, so that's why I'm like this. It's just, I'm sorry.
Larry,
Um, I'm
we may
kidding.
have to have a meeting.
I don't drink at all. I literally do not drink at all. All right, listen, Patrick, always a pleasure having you, man, and have a great weekend, and, we'll talk to you soon.
Great talking to you. Gobble gobble.
Okay, bud. See ya.
Bye bye.
All right, everybody. So we're going to put a wrap on this. And I know you guys have all seen the book sitting here, but if you want to get all of your questions answered when it comes to real estate, now look, you could go to Amazon, you can go to Barnes and Noble, you can buy the book, The Top 10s of Real Estate, 32 top 10 real estate lists, proven to maximize your profit when you buy, sell, or invest. But I'm going to give it to you for free. All you have to do is text the word book to 630-921-0611, 630-921-0611. I will send you a link for the free ebook. I guarantee you this book will save you a ton of money, whether you're buying, selling, or investing. Check out our sponsor, Trusted Agent, USA.com. Where also, whether you're buying, selling, or investing, you will save a ton of money on your commissions. Our sellers list from anywhere from 1.5% to 2%. And our buyers, every one of our buyers gets a 0.5% rebate back on the home that they're purchasing in order to put that towards their closing costs and prepaid. So for instance, on a $400,000 home, you're going to get a $2,000 rebate back to put towards your closing costs. So having said all that and all that shameless promotion, I simply want to say you guys have an awesome, awesome weekend. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you down the road. Thanks for joining us at the Real Estate Radio Show podcast, and we will see you all again soon. Talk to you guys later.